Welcome once again to the Speakers Bureau. I'm Dr. Donna Mills, and I'm part of the school board here, St. Lucie County School Board, for those of you who may be just turning in to listen. And this program is all about motivating, encouraging, and inspiring our community through the stories of other people in the community's life. So that's what it's all about. So you're going to hear some interesting stuff today. And we have a very wonderful guest that's with us today. I'm so happy that he was able to take the time out to come see us. He is the principal of Fort Pierce Central, right here in our county. And it's Eldrique Gardner, Mr. Gardner, is here today, and he's just going to share with us his journey. So welcome, Mr. Gardner. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Mills.
Oh, we appreciate you so much and the work that you do in the district. And I seem to have known you for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
In the community. I want to say, and I'm not sure because I'm getting a little older these days, but I want to say, even as a young man growing up, you know, and I knew your dad very well as well. So let's start out by just sharing with the community what you do and how did you choose the path that you're on, because you're now currently the principal of Fort Pierce Central, but you have been principals of other schools before that, and I'm sure you might have started out as a teacher. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. First and foremost, it is an absolute pleasure and an honor to have this conversation with you regarding my journey. At the same token, it is a difficult conversation because introspectively, sometimes we just don't look at those nuances of our lives to understand truly how they have come to bear into who we are today. But I am Eldrique Gardner, and I am a native Fort Piercian, born and raised in the city of Fort Pierce, and a product of St. Lucie Public Schools. Starting my journey at Fairlawn Elementary School so many years ago, and matriculating from Gardner City to White City Elementary School, where I think a profound impact was made on my life through the wonderful leadership of a then man by the name of Mr. Burleson, who was the principal, but a wonderful teacher that I found there in the name of Mr. Morris Beams, my sixth grade teacher, who had a profound impact on me and the affirmation of what I could do. One of the things that I do keenly remember about Mr. Beams' class, that he would have you stand before the class to recite your multiplication factors. And I had the opportunity in sixth grade to be the first one to get my name on the board, and your board was there your name was on the board for the rest of the year. That was a great affirmation for me. And from there on, I started to take academics and my studies just a little differently and becoming the student that I ultimately would be. I ultimately graduated from Lincoln Park Academy, and from there continued my undergraduate and graduate studies at the University of South Florida, Florida A&M University, and ultimately getting an ed leadership degree from Nova Southeastern. I had a wonderful upbringing with rich experiences from the community. As you have quoted, my parents were in ministry in the community, and it just seems as though we always had other kids at our home. And we learned very quickly, very soon, that the blessings that the Lord has given us are to be shared. And so I have carried that forth into my adult career and ultimately finding myself in education. Now, I must let you know, it wasn't my first choice. But it was the choice. I went to school, I got a degree in science. Ultimately, I did have the opportunity to work in microbiology labs and an analytical chemistry lab. I did graduate work in viticulture.
So you were very good in chemistry?
Yes. And so ultimately,
and math?
Chemistry and math, they were a strong suit for me. I did ultimately have an opportunity to do graduate studies, my thesis in viticulture. looking at muscadine grapes, seed, pulp, and their antimicrobial effects. After I completed my graduate work at Florida A&M, I came back home, and ultimately I kind of needed a job. But I had worked in labs before, and I knew that I did not want to be in the isolation of a lab. I needed to talk to people. I needed to interact. That was just the nature, my nature. And I had an opportunity to teach in St. Lucie Public Schools. Mind you, I did have 3 first years, and you say, Gardner, well, how do you have 3 first years? And I'm so glad you asked. My first year was at Centennial High School, in which I did teach science there. Didn't like it was
So
short.
wait, hold it. Before we go into that, you did say that you went to graduate school first and got your ed leadership.
That's my second experience in grad school when I came to get my ed leadership degree.
Okay.
So
but before you really started the work field, you
Yes.
went all the way. You started. You didn't. Did you have any space between getting your bachelor's degree and your master's?
Yes,
there?
I did. So
Okay.
during that time, I had the opportunity to work in microbiology and analytical chemistry labs.
Okay.
And that's when I got the keen understanding that I did not want to return to that work. But that also afforded me the opportunity to get a fellowship with Florida A&M University to work on my first graduate work, in which I did the work in viticulture, working with muscadine grapes, seed and pulp, and was able to do the research on my thesis. At which time, but I did start my first teaching opportunity before I got the fellowship,
Okay.
which was the reason that my first year stopped. I was given the opportunity to do research at the university, and I'm on with the fellowship, in which they paid for not only my schooling but also gave me a stipend for living.
Okay.
And so from that, once I completed that experience, I then came back to Fort Pierce, and I kind of needed a job. And my mom and my Mima, they were teachers. They encouraged me yet again to go into teaching. And
Were they both teachers here?
my mom teaches here, has taught before her retirement, I believe 38 years in St. Lucie Public Schools.
Okay, what's her name?
Teresa Gardner
Okay.
is my mom, and not only that, but she retired from the very school that she was a elementary student at. She went back to that very institution and taught well over 30 years, which is the same institution where her mom and my aunt had the opportunities to start careers in St. Lucie Public Schools.
What's her name?
Alberta Anderson.
Okay, because I'm sure there's people out there that know these names, and they were probably their teachers and what
Very
have
much
you.
so.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, Elizabeth Hamilton, they also had careers.
Wow, so you come from a family of educators.
Very much, and those who have been in and around the community in support roles.
And what did your dad do?
My dad was, by trade, he was a carpet layer, specialized in all types of flooring.
Okay.
I can and have laid carpet and linoleum and towel and all of that great stuff.
I need some work done.
Oh, boy, boy, boy.
I need some floors done.
I share an experience with my great-grandmother who had a duplex, and I reminded my brother of this a few weeks ago. You know, she was the first one who gave us our first job independent of our father. And she told us, you know, you guys, I had to be about 13, 14 years old at the time. And she said, you know, you guys have been watching your dad do this kind of stuff. I'm sure you can as well. And she gave us complete confidence and trust, and we went in there. It was a heck of a job, but we got it done. And she did compensate us. I think it was $5. But however,
that time,
it
that
was an
probably was-
experience that she gave us, and it was one of affirmation in, I believe you can.
I know your dad.
Yes.
I knew your dad. And we actually had a Christian league at one time that my husband and I did, who your dad was very instrumental in being a part of, basketball league. And so we got to meet and know him on a personal level.
Very much so.
and I know he's passed now.
Yes.
But he was a great man, in the community
Very much so.
that really cared
Very much so.
about the young people in our community. So go ahead on. I
But
just want to bring that in.
and you highlight an experience living in our household where my dad he really did take an interest in youth in our community. So much so, I mean, at one time he might have traded in a Cadillac and got a van so that he could transport students to various activities and give them experiences beyond themselves and their household. And so that was just a staple in our homes. Community service given to others, and so even when it comes to my mom, these things are just ingrained and embedded in us. We are here to support others, and if it lends itself to a philosophy of life, it's easily phrased in to do all the good you can while you can for all that you can. And so this has been.
And when you do that, good comes back.
Oh, every day of the week, including Sundays, you will see that good comes back to you manyfold over in ways that you did not expect, through doors and windows that you could not imagine. The good comes back, and so we find
that
ourselves
gives me
there.
chills because it is such a truth in that, and we experience it as we give. And there's something, I had someone stop in my office today, and he says, you know, it's something about giving. You receive more back than you give.
Very much so.
And I think many do not understand that concept. Otherwise, we'll all be great big givers, right?
Very much so,
Yeah.
very much so.
One of my favorite sayings is you cannot outgive God, no matter how hard you try.
Yes.
And it's just something about that giving out and what comes back as a result.
Very much so, very much so. And these things, I think, were modeled for me in the most profound manner. And also our faith really did play a very important part in my upbringing, to the extent of opportunities were presented there for me. And then I tell often and always, I had a great experience in my church, and in all of the people who just poured into me in profound manners, giftings that they saw that I could not see in myself, and encouragements that they gave, that in the moment, you did not realize the significance of it. But once you travel life and you get to an age where I like to say often, I'm nearly a half a century years old. And so these things, these stories, these memories, they come back and they foster an opportunity in you that you say, ensure that you can. And that confidence and that affirmation, it continues. Even though individuals may be sleeping in the heart of the earth, the very words that they say, it continues. I think about my dad, and as you have made it known, we lost him tragically a few years ago. And we would have robust conversations.
Well, you were already an adult when your dad passed.
I was an adult. I think if memory serves me correctly, I was like 34 years old.
Oh, okay.
And the tragic story is that he and my mom were planning a trip with the Grands, and they were taking a flight, and he had driven my mom and all the Grands and her sister, who was accompanying her, to the airport. And he was taking a trip back to Fort Pierce with the intentions of joining them, taking his flight the next day and joining them. Tragically as it might, maybe he was killed in a fatal car accident. And so that very day, I had an opportunity to have lunch with my siblings. And we were seated together having lunch, and these things, unbeknownst was happening. And it was the very day that my brother and we completed our graduate program in Ed Leadership together.
Oh my gosh.
But it was, for some reason, I just believe fate had us together in that moment, and we pull up to our parents' house, and we're greeted by the Florida Highway Patrolman. Wonderful thing. As I look back on it and reflect, we were together already in regards to hearing that news in that moment. And one of the very things that I like to say, I had 4 siblings that we grieved together. And so it became easy because I could call them 1, 2, 3 in the morning and we could talk about that. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about individuals to others. It can be exhausting to someone, but because we had, it was our dad, we were able to speak freely to one another, and we got through those moments together.
And that's a good of what you're saying right now, how important that is that you do have someone that you can talk to, and you can, and even, you know, it's extremely important. It may not be siblings, but when things like that happen, if you can talk to others who have gone through the same type of thing, you get to a deeper level in conversation and in help than if a person has never been through it and then they're trying to help you. I mean, they can help too, but it's something about having gone through that path and then coming out on the other side, having been comforted by others, that you learn these lessons of how important it is for us to, as the human race, to be there for one another and be able to open up and talk about this type of stuff, because there's healing in that.
Yes, it is. And we recognize that we as humans, we were not made to be alone. And so we need others. As a song goes, I need you, you need me, and I need you to survive. And so there are moments in life that cause us to understand that no man's an island, and we need each other. And if I were to say, that was a very defining moment in my life, because it really did ground me to understand that life is but a vapor. And so it is what you do in these moments that really, really matter. And going back to my dad, it was in that moment that I realized the greatness of this man, and really how that he had an impact on others beyond those in our home. And if I've learned anything from my parents, it is, and my mother included, have an impact on those beyond your home. And even as I look at her and what she does now, she loves to shop, and she would shop for the house, but sometimes I go there and she will have an array of things, and it is not for anyone that I know, but it is someone that she has come across and there was a need, and her the way she is, she responds to the need. And it matters not how the need arises. It is just the need is there. And we learn quickly, and even in my roles now, I'm learning, it matters not how the mess on our tube got there. We're just there to clean up the spill on our tube.
Yes. Now, you're married.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Tell us a little bit about your wife. I think you just had is this your first child?
No. Well, actually.
And your wife, the two you're married.
I am married, and I'm married to Gardner, and she is she's a wonderful, wonderful individual.
Community activist
community
in her own
activist,
right.
as you know. And to the extent it is one of our goals that we provide services to the greater Fort Pierce community, in namely the Lincoln Park areas, where there might be a level of bleak. And so she finds herself in the nonprofit world offering services to the community. We are a family of 5. The oldest is 26 and the youngest is 6.
Of your siblings?
No, of our kids.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We had an Abraham and Sarah moment, but to God be the glory, to say the least. And so, when we look at the kids, Shaya, who is a graduate of Bethune-Cookman College, and I have 2 boys, Tristan, Tariq and Tristan, and Elliot, who is at a senior at LPA,
Okay.
and then we have the 6-year-old,
Okay.
Ellie,
Okay.
who is at
That's the
Fairlawn
one I
Elementary.
know.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And she has brought new life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I must say,
Yes.
sometimes we don't know what we need until we get it.
Yes.
And it was needful for Ellie, and we are just so elated and we're happy
Yeah.
for the opportunity to have a redo.
Yeah.
And I like to I say often with my older kids, my dad was instrumental in helping with them. So it was, at that time, I never had to go to school. I never picked them up. I never had to go to the nurse's office for them. He was the one who did these things. And I remember getting a call from the school one day, and they said, Mr. Gardner, and it was talking about my oldest son, that he's a great, personable, and he's a great student. But if you could do one thing for me, and the teacher asked if you could get him to school on time. And I was like, I'm perplexed. I'm like, oh, my dad brings him, takes him to school every day, and at which moment I'm like, okay, let me just touch base with them to see what was going on. And my dad made me aware that they stopped at a little restaurant every morning for breakfast before they went to school. And so he would do his best to speed up the breakfast. So it was one of those things. I have been gifted and blessed by family all my life, and I understand how important that is. And as even with our kids today, we try to continue the legacy of family.
Well, you know, you've covered so many questions that I was going to ask. I mean, just in your story, I can just skip over that. So I do have a question, and it can be a little deep, but the question is, you already talked about who you're most thankful for. You've named people that have had a tremendous impact on your life. And, you know, you've also talked about, just so much stuff, but do you believe in second chances?
I believe second chances are a necessity. And to the extent some second chances, one failure does not define a person. And so how is it that we ensure that we give individuals support when failure has happened? And as I work with young people and have children of my own, we understand that second chances are necessary to the extent that if we are able to provide rehabilitations to people and give them a second chance in at least on life, that's something that I think we should extend.
How would you apply that in your position as a principal?
Well, to the extent I do believe that in all interactions with children, it represents new interactions. And to the extent, one of the things that you will find if I'm at Fort Pierce Central, I often visit with students who might find themselves in ISS, just to have a conversation, a reflective conversation. And in it, you find that students, many times it is not that the intentions were there not to do the expectation. Sometimes it's just a lack of giving clarity and thought to what they were doing lent them there. And so to that extent, we try our best as we can in those moments to establish a relationship with the students that can possibly pay out dividends over time. And I tell you, one of the things that really I had the fortune of having now, a K-12 experience where some of the students that are at Fort Pierce Central, I am the only principal that they know. I met many of these students in kindergarten, and they traveled from my previous school of St. Lucie West K-8, and now that they find themselves at Fort Pierce Central. And so to the extent, when you see a child grow up, it's kind of difficult not to have a level of empathy, and not only a level of empathy for them, but I also believe that you have a contribution to make to the student and to ensure their success. So second chances are, I think, necessary.
Yes. And yes, I agree with you on that one. How do you personally push through the worst times of your life? How have you been able to push through?
To me, pushing through and perseverance overall. First and foremost, it is my faith. But that faith was given to me by my family. Undoubtedly, I have had great models of those who push through. And then you start to understand that your worst is not necessarily the worst. I often heard it said, often heard it spoken, that there are others who are worse off than you. And then so you start to understand, have a global perspective in regards to what might be going on in your life, and then you're able to extrapolate that out to the greater community. And there has nothing that has befallen me that when I look at it and the whole scope of what it was, I always say that it was a learning lesson. And if there is something that I am to learn, I want to learn it the first time because I'm a firm believer there might be a repeat. And as you know, life is, she's not an easy teacher because sometimes she gives you the test first, then she teaches you the lesson. And so I just hope that in all of my difficulties, I've learned a lesson. And one of the lessons that I've learned, even in my darkest hours, it's not as bad as I might think it is. And we find a way to get up. We find a way to go forward. And that's just perseverance 101.
Wow. Principal Gardner, you have certainly blessed us with your life lessons and stories, you know, and what you've learned from it. And I think the main thing I've gotten out of it is how you think about things. The same problem can come to me that comes to you, but it's how we think and how we see that problem. And you've said a lot about the learning process of what one goes through instead of allowing it, that circumstance to take them under. They see it as an opportunity to learn and to grow, no matter what it may be. If it's looked at as a lesson, then you can learn from it rather than something that's there to hurt and to destroy you. We have about 1 minute left, and I want to make sure that I get this in. What are you doing to ensure your continued growth and development as a leader? And we're going to end with that.
Well, one of the things that I have had the opportunity, and particularly I have had the opportunity for leaders, those who I have seen model, come in and we consult and we reflect. And one of the things I find is that there is no question that I find difficulty sometimes. How is it that you get better? You get better by seeing better. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity that St. Lucie Public Schools has given me to be under great leadership. It starts with our great leader and superintendent, Dr. John R. Prince, who is a great model of leadership. And also it extends to Mr. Jen. And so I have the opportunity to see great leaders, and then they pour into us in a manner that, in a very profound manner, and I am the better for it.
Yes, yes, and I love that, through example, great leaders. Thank you, Principal Gardner, for spending this time with us. We're out of time, but you have enriched us with your wisdom and your life, and we are appreciative. Please feel welcome to come back anytime. Just give me a call if I don't call you first. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
All righty. Yes, ma'am.